everybody. Michelle, Education Director here at ASIS, coming to you again Friday afternoon for our live stream today. Today, we're going to be chatting all about sports, athletes, sports massage, injury, how people can get into the fields maybe, and how to work and collaborate to get athletes to be in their tip-top shape to be able to perform to the best of their ability. And so I'm really excited to introduce our guest today. He's the head athletic trainer for the Arizona Rattlers football team. His name is Steven Upham, and we have been working together actually the last couple of months, collaborating together with his athletes being here on campus. That we are actually been working with the players to get them ready for a game day. So based on their season so far, I think we might have something going here that's helping them a little bit. So I'm going to bring him on. Let's say hello to Steven. Hi, Steven.
How's it going, guys?
Yes, great. Thank you so much for joining us. So is it true that we can take credit for the guys winning as well as they've been lately?
Sure. It's a collaborative approach. I mean, 10-3 is a good start to the season. Hopefully we can continue over the next couple of weeks. 3 games left in the season, then playoffs. So yeah, I mean, definitely take some credit because you've helped me out.
I totally teasing, but I just like to talk about myself, so why not?
Yeah, absolutely.
No, it's been really exciting.
10%, 10% credit maybe.
Exactly. The students are really excited about it, and we're really happy that we've started this collaborative adventure with you and the team. So, and I appreciate you were so willing to jump in when I asked you about this, because it's something that I know we get a lot of people who come into the massage school saying they want to work with athletes, and sports massage is one of the classes they're looking forward to when they get to that part of our program here. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of pieces to it, and there's a lot of levels and all that kind of stuff. And so I wanted to kind of pick your brain about what you see from your perspective working actually in the field directly with the athletes. But first, let's talk a little bit about you. How did you get into the field in general?
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of the typical athletic trainer story where it's like, oh, I was into sports. On my end, obviously I was into sports growing up, even though born and raised Arizona. I played 2 Canadian sports, hockey and lacrosse. Wasn't athletic enough to go on to the next level and play / I mean, nobody playing those sports is going to come to Arizona recruit anyways. But I was always intrigued with medical. Growing up, I remember watching the show ER with my parents.
Yeah.
You'll know it. People who are younger, it's the Grey's Anatomy before the Grey's Anatomy.
Yeah. The OG hospital setting.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. Maybe a little bit more medically focused than Grey's Anatomy, where it's drama llama based. But got into college, thinking med school, but then I kind of realized the amount of studying it took to get to med school. And, I was the kind of typical college guy. I wanted to, party, have fun. And yes, grades were important to me, but they weren't the sole thing. And so I started looking into other careers where I can combine medically working with sports. And that's where athletic training popped up, got into that, and crazy journey since then, graduating 10 years ago. To this point now in my career, excited about the point where I'm at in my career, excited to see where it's going to grow the next 10 years. And
that's so awesome. Is that it seems like a fast turnaround to get to the place where you are right now in the 10 years. Is that, or just kind of in the right place, right time kind of thing?
It's a good question. It's hard because it's sometimes who not what in a lot of the careers, and athletic training is kind of guilty of that. So yes, it's a fast turnaround, but I've seen other places, other people jump up per the indoor league. Like maybe it's not that quick of a turnaround. Because obviously, if you're looking like full tier, like professional, where it's like the first tier professional, the NFL, NBA, maybe they're a little bit older than me. But yeah, I mean, it just comes to how much hard work you're putting into it, how much you're developing your skills, how much you're networking, and just kind of being in the right place at the right time, interviewing well, and busting your butt once you get there.
That's awesome. Yeah. What goes on into the training to get to your certificate or your degree?
It used to be a 4-year bachelor's program. It's transitioning to an entry-level master's, and I'll save that spiel where I don't necessarily agree with that for, an athletic training live stream, not a massage school live stream. But for me, it was just 4-year schooling, bachelor's. at the end of your schooling, or once you enter in the last semester of your senior year, you're allowed to take your certification exam, and you take that, you pass it. Congrats, get a practice athletic training. Then it just comes down to basic licensure of getting it with whatever state you work in, and then just improving your career from that. Because yes, you're certified, but that doesn't really mean much. It means, all right, you're not going to kill anybody. Where the really learning is going to come is doing the continuing education and getting your hands on and actually working and learning. Because yes, what we learn in school is important,
right?
But it's not the end of learning. Like, I'm learning stuff this year to improve my practice, and over the off season, I'm going to improve my learning that much more to improve on next year, and so forth.
Yeah, that sounds very similar to massage too. You know, like we were setting them up with a foundation and they can go out there and start working. But, you know, they said, I don't know everything when they graduate. I'm like, I don't either. I do like, and I'm excited about that because I get to learn so much more too. So and learning a lot in the field is where you got actually putting it to work and figuring things out and all that. And so this might sound a little like silly questions, but I know the people out there, and myself trying as well, I'll admit it too, for some things and not knowing things. So the education that goes into being an athletic trainer versus, like, let's say a personal trainer. Can you elaborate? I know personal training, there's a whole gamut. You can do like a short online course or take it within your, you know, a program or something like that. But in general, are you geared towards working with athletes for sure? Or like,
so personal, that's like the one thing where if you ever meet an athletic trainer, we've improved as a career since then. But like, I remember being in school where it's like people would think athletic trainers are personal trainers, and that's dwindled since then. But personal trainers, there's a couple different avenues you can go. Like, you can do the basic, blanking on the name, the NASM, which is you just take an online course, you pass the test, you can personal train. Sometimes we're confused with strength and conditioning coaches. You often see that as CSCS. That used to be all you had to do was just have a bachelor's degree and then study to take the test, and you can take a test and go for it. So like, you can be like an art student and take the CSCS. But they've just changed that recently. I think this year's the first year they're starting it where you have to be in a master's program to take the CSCS. But really, personal trainer, it's like, all right, you're in a gym setting, you're designing programs for people, weight loss goals, strength goals, whatever that may be. And that's kind of your specialty. But athletic training, it's injury diagnosis. So a person gets injured, we have the tools and the knowledge and the special tests to diagnose. We have emergency care. So say a person collapses on the field, what do we do then? Or if it's like, say, a leg fracture, what do we do? Splint referral. It's rehab. So if a person gets hurt, how do we then build them up? So that's kind of the physical therapy area of it. It's administration. It's a wide variety of stuff. Like, athletic trainers, really, it's not just doing the rehabs and taping the ankles. It's a lot of admin stuff and note documentation and a lot of stuff that I'm experiencing as a head, where it's not just treating athletes. And oddly enough, on days where I get to just treat athletes and not have to do all the admin stuff and contacting people, it's good days for me. It's usually when I'm stuck in my office making calls that I'm more like annoyed and being like, I want to work with people, not. But that's the job.
Yeah, I know that feeling pretty well too. Do you see people in your field do like cross training, as far as like, were there maybe massage therapists you might have passed contact with that have decided then to pursue athletic training and kind of do both things? Or
usually what happens, I would say, is athletic trainers become that massage therapist because they see a niche and maybe they really like that niche. And they want to then pursue that because we've gotten to a time in sports medicine where a lot of pro teams hire massage therapists. So like, you have a massage therapist on staff. And so maybe as an athletic trainer, you're kind of burnt out from the everyday mundane rehabs, practice coverage, all that. And then you really like the treatment of the massage therapy. And then you see these people go to massage school and come back and get hired as massage therapists because they have that athletic training background. But I think I've only seen one in my schooling where they become a massage therapist first and then go to
Okay.
athletic training.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, so I know a lot of I was to mention a lot of our students say they want to work with athletes and kind of get some more education too. So something that they might like, I'll do this and pay my way through like athletic training school or something like that because it's a nice, it's a faster turnaround to graduate from massage school and then they're able to work and do that kind of thing. So I hear the intent out there sometimes, but yeah. So sports medicine, I feel like that's like the umbrella of all this. So many dynamics. We're talking about injury prevention and rehab and conditioning and like so many elements about it. What do you have any favorites, or you're like, I really love to work on the rehab? Or
I've grown to appreciate the rehab. Rehab's probably the hardest thing to understand. Our education does a great job of teaching injury diagnosis, so all the special tests and how to like, all right, I get an injury, I do an evaluation, I know what it is, I'm confident what it is. I'm then able to make the decision of, do we refer out to our doctor? Is it an emergency type situation, or is it something I can handle in-house? And whereas rehab is just like a semester long course, so really our education doesn't spend much on it. So early on in my career, I really liked injury evaluation because it's like, yeah, I diagnosed that right, go me. But as I've gotten older, it's really, you fall in love with the rehab, because being able to have a person that's hurt and then you build them back up and get them to return to play, like that's the ultimate satisfaction for myself. Like last weekend, had a guy come back from a hamstring strain, and then all of a sudden he got an interception, return for a touchdown. It's like, I did that. So you get a little bit more satisfaction from it, not just like, okay, cool, yeah, I did an eval, cool, we're good. Now when I do an eval, I'm angry that somebody got hurt because I want to keep somebody on the field, rather than just like, ooh, I got it right. I've really grown to appreciate the rehab of it.
Yeah, I love that investigative side of it too. And like I was saying, our quote unquote sports massage class is it's injury rehab, and it's more talking about different conditions, different like very common conditions in different parts of the body. So not necessarily specific to athletes, because anybody can get a piriformis syndrome issue or thoracic outlet, whatever, or there's all that kind of stuff. But we always tell the students, because it's sometimes pretty heavy for them, they're like, I'm never going to remember all this, I don't know what I like, how am I supposed to know that this is happening, what am I supposed to do to understand it? And so we do introduce a lot of components, and one of them being, is where I'm leading up to, is the orthopedic tests. And that there is some debate in the massage world as to whether or not it's valuable or even necessary or even prudent for us to be putting it into entry-level massage education, because we're not diagnosticians and we shouldn't be. It's outside of our scope of practice. But the way I view it and what I explain to the students is, let's say you're collaborating with a athletic trainer, a doctor, a physical therapist. They're probably using these orthopedic tests and noting them in the notations and all that, the paperwork and everything. And it might help you also suspect something that could possibly be wrong, and then be able to refer out to somebody who is able to diagnose or help them a little further. So you said testing or orthopedic testing, some of the things that you are implementing into your work as well?
Yeah, I mean, that's your standard practice where a guy comes in complaining of ankle pain. I have to take him through my special test and diagnose it to be able to then make the decision of, all right, do I need to send this to our orthopedic doctor just to get him to check up on it? Or is it minor enough to where I can just treat it in-house and not really have to send an athlete to an appointment, because it might be causing discomfort today, but it could feel better tomorrow. So is it really worth the athlete's time to go see the doctor versus like the doctor's time to actually see them? Because obviously the doctor's busy. He's in his clinic all day anyways, more of assistant to us. The higher up you get, like say you work at the NBA or the NFL level, like the doctors are basically there every day, so it's a little bit easier. But it's still good practice as the athletic trainer to get the diagnosis to pass it on the doc. Unless as an athletic trainer you're just confused by it, like, I really don't know what's going on. Here's my findings of everything. Can you help me out, doc? Just because if the doc's diagnosing everything, then the athlete's not necessarily going to trust you as much. Or there might be like okay, I'm just going to go see the doc rather than seeing you first, which means they're bugging the doctor more often than what they should.
Yeah.
Because we serve as the middleman almost. But
Right.
in a well-functioning team, the doctor's going to follow our lead anyways, and it's more of the doctor just kind of backing up our findings.
Yeah, yeah. But so it definitely with those tests, so they're not always like positive test equals this, right? You're still doing other things to collaborate, to confirm it, right? And it's a whole full package of things too, right?
Yeah.
But would you agree that having a basic knowledge of them would be helpful for any therapist in the field that can kind of lean towards which way they want to go with the treatment?
Yeah. I mean, having a knowledge of injuries is key, especially because as massage therapists, when you come in to help out that injury rehab, you have to understand the injury and how is that going to change anatomy.
Right.
For example, an MCL sprain, so medial collateral ligament of the knee, which is ligament on the inside of the knee, not like inside, but like on the side of it. If an athlete sprains that, he's going to be having a tight adductor groin, maybe a little bit hamstring as well, which could be causing some of the lingering pain in it. So you have to be able to understand, okay, here's the MCL sprain. I know where that ligament is because of that injury. It's going to be causing this tightness. So I need to make sure I'm working on that tightness to help aid in the rehab. But also be understanding the pain where if you're, say, going through, oh, I'm having this pain, what do you think it is? You can do a quick eval yourself, whereas, yes, outside scope of practice to officially diagnose, but you can kind of run through the quick anatomy there, maybe do a couple of tests and be like, oh, you're just experiencing this. Yeah, I would go get that checked out.
Yeah.
Especially if you weren't working in the sports industry where it's just a person coming to you off the street or something. You might be able to better develop a relationship with that client. Because if you save them, be like, yeah, rather than treating this on you, yeah, you should probably go see a doc, or actually, no, like, let me do this with you. Maybe do a couple of this stuff at home. Boom, you feel better than be like, this person made me feel great. I'm going to come back.
Yeah. I know. Can make the more anatomy understanding, the easier I feel like their job is, especially if you're wanting to do very pinpoint work with somebody. And I tell this story a lot to some of the students about why it's important to understand this. And we kind of joke around. Some of our clients, they'll say, this is very common, I think, in the industry, where somebody has shoulder pain, right away they come in and say, oh, I have a rotator cuff problem. It's like, there are many things that you could have wrong with your shoulder, but okay. And so we have to start asking those questions. What do you mean? What do you see? What do you feel? All that kind of stuff. Or low back is always sciatica, right? I don't know if you experience this at all in your work too. But I had a client one time, she said she had rotator cuff problems. And so I asked her specifically what she meant by that, what hurts. And she pointed to the front of her shoulder. And when I raised my arm, like this, and I'm thinking, okay, that's probably not a rotator cuff, but I went through my muscle testing, resistive movements, and I suspected probably bicep tendon was really more of her issue. And so I just, of course, I'm not diagnosing. So I just said, I'm going to play around some of the muscles here. I think more on this front part of your arm. It might be better for me to work in that, but I still going light because she's seeing it's painful. So she went to the orthopedic surgeon, paid on to how many hundreds of dollars later to be told she had a slight bicep tendon tear and nothing to do with the rotator cuff. So I was like little excited about I couldn't diagnose it, but understanding that, I knew to not focus my work on a rotator cuff issue or start digging into where she's feeling the pain, is to relieve more of the muscle in the area that's connected to that. So all that to say this, that the anatomy knowledge is so key to understand what you're doing and not just chasing the pain, for sure. So tell me a little bit how you incorporate massage then into your plans for the athletes, and how that's fitting into their tip-top shape too.
So it's kind of, I would say it's threefold. The first and most basic is recovery. Recovery is essential. I would say probably less essential in football. I've worked before in soccer, and that's where we really use our massage therapists because these athletes for soccer played 90 minutes on Saturday. Monday morning was their massages, but it's to get them ready because Tuesday was the heaviest practice of the week. And then they dwindled down throughout the week to then build up to Saturday. So if they weren't necessarily getting that recovery in, they're going to have a harder time during the heavier practice on Tuesday, which might not be then a good practice for them, which might then decrease the coach's trust in them, which means they're might not be playing. Or maybe it's like, since that was their heavy tactical day, they weren't necessarily as sharp, so they were more lacking, which then might support results on game day. So recovery is the first and foremost on that, and that's why I have it scheduled with you guys on Monday, because we play Saturday. So Monday is a nice, easy flush recover from it. Recovery is probably the first fold. The second fold is kind of in relation to that. If they're not recovering, then they might lead themselves in an injury situation. The name of the game, obviously, is to keep them on the field and trying to prevent the preventable injuries. Obviously, working football, there's some stuff I can't prevent. A couple weeks ago, we had a guy pick up a fumble, get rolled on behind him, basically blew out his ankle. He's returning in the next couple weeks anyways. That's not really something that I can prevent or massage therapists can prevent. My tape job probably prevented him from dislocating, so I guess a little bit. But it's more so we're looking at the muscle injuries, the musculoskeletal injuries, where that recovery can come in, help flush the muscles, so the muscles activating more during the practice, so they don't themselves. But in the same line as injury prevention, say you're working with an athlete being like, oh yeah, you got really tight glutes. You pass that on to the athletic trainer, where maybe I missed that in my injury prevention screen, or it's an athlete that's kind of trying to avoid me a little bit, because football, it's tough where they almost want to avoid me sometimes because they don't want me to pull them out, because football is a very like macho sport, which I have to try and coach these guys back. Hey, we're professional now. Like, take care of your bodies. You work with me. I'm not going to go to coach back. Oh, he's not ready to practice. Like, you work with me to help stay on the field. Let's say, you're doing the massage, tight glutes, you let me know, then that's a way we can maybe design a rehab program around that. Because maybe it's tight glutes because his hips in an external rotated position, which means his hamstrings are weaker. So even though he's complaining of tight hamstrings, since his glutes tighter, that's what's actually the cause of the issue. We fix that. We fix the hamstring. Everything falls into line. So that's where I utilize you guys, where you give me the notes back. Whereas, sometimes I say, hey, let's focus on this on the person. But then you're able to give information back to me if the guy started complaining about something. The third tier will be helping me out with rehab or for injuries. Because as I was explaining earlier, with certain injuries, stuff's going to get tighter. Or maybe guys are complaining of tightness from an injury. And that's where you can help aid me, or massage therapist help me out in my field. Just because, I have 34 guys on my team, only 21 play on game days. But out of those 21, yes, I can work on each 21, but then I'm going to be beaten down to a pulp, which I do during the playoffs, because, I just go during the playoffs, then I get to sleep for 5 months after. During the season, it's nice for me, where even though I'm working 7 days a week, that Monday's kind of an easier day. All right, here's all the guys going to treatment to the massage place, get the recovery in. All right, I need this person to focus posterior chain, hamstrings, etc. Maybe this guy needs a little bit of upper body shoulder work because he has a sprain, so work pec, trap, whatever it may be. That's where then you aid in the rehab, because I'm able to do a global approach, because you have the hands. I only have 2. I have a couple of interns that help out as well, but still we're talking 6 hands versus
a lot of guys
possibly. So
it is a lot. I know. I had a co-worker. He had worked with the Cardinals for a bit, and he came in and talked to the students before, and he's like, you've got to be in shape and ready to go and be okay with just like boom, boom, boom for 8 hours. And so everyone's like, that sounds not so exciting anymore. It's not as glamorous as you think it might be, but very rewarding, right? And definitely really, really great work. So So being in good shape is probably important too, right? Needing
Yeah,
to
I mean, it's
stamina.
you're obviously you're a working career, so you have to be some sort of physically fit to be able to withstand it. One,
Mhm.
to be able to withstand it in the short term, but also in the long term. Like,
Mhm.
me, if I don't take care of myself, I'm going to be beaten down and then breaking myself
Yeah.
to where
Then
it's
you
like, all
can't
right,
help
I'm going to
anyone.
call it a career early because I can't
Yeah.
function my neck anymore,
Yeah.
and something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's definitely makes a challenge.
Yeah.
So let's say that somebody a massage there, and I know you're not in the massage field exactly, but being in the sports world, and somebody wants to get involved a little bit more with athletics, are there any like avenues do you think that they could be looking into? Well, one, like what they need to be focusing on for studies, but also, and I think maybe I wonder your opinion on this, working with like junior high, high school level people to start off with because they all are working hard as well too. Some of them not doing the cross training that we used to do back in the day, where you're doing baseball in the summer and football in the winter. Like they're signing up for baseball all year round because they want to get really, really good at baseball, and so their muscles aren't getting cross trained as much anymore. So I feel like
Mhm.
there's more injuries that happen to the younger athletes that do that. But I feel like there's a big opening in there for us as a field to get involved. But what are your thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, it's always a little bit cautious working with younger population just because the age difference. Like, as
Mhm.
I was a high school athletic trainer for a year after my experience in Fresno, where it's like there's a lot of stuff that you got to do different just because they're under 18. But
Mhm.
obviously, you're definitely right. Where if you have that approval, you have whatever waiver signed, you do it.
Mhm.
Maybe parents are around during that session, something just to protect yourself.
Yeah.
Um, it is an excellent avenue just because, yeah, we don't cross train as much. So, they play baseball year round and just, destroy their shoulder.
Mhm.
Um, I would probably aim more high school than junior high
Mhm.
if you wanted to do that avenue,
Yeah.
just because they're more developed. Whereas when they're in their junior high, they really don't know how to function their body, which is why you get some of those overuse injuries because they're just relying on their joints for movement and their tendons are just screaming the entire time. But
Yeah.
high school is when you'll start to see a little bit of development of anatomy. And so
Mhm.
where you can be like, hey, you're really strong here. So are really tight here. So we need to function
Mhm.
contralaterally. So like focus on the opposite side and your strength.
Right.
You don't want to overdo this. You want to strengthen here, but I'll help facilitate recovery here. Uh,
Mhm.
so that's a good option. More so, just don't. Um, Sorry, I just got a text from
That's okay.
doctor. All good. Got distracted. Popped up on my laptop. I was like,
Yeah.
oh. Look into the sports. So community colleges have a lot of sports within Arizona. I mean, there's Mesa Community College, there's Chandler Gilbert, there's Gateway, uh,
Mhm.
there's Scottsdale Community College, Glendale Community College.
Mhm.
There's a lot of different community colleges that have athletics, and those athletes don't really have resources available per the school. So if you're
Mhm.
trying to reach out to their athletic trainers, you might be able to get in with a team or two. That might be a little bit better than high school because those
Mhm.
are freshmen and sophomores in college. So it's a little bit better, easier access to them. And
Right.
then you can help them, teach them about their bodies, teach them about recovery because they
Mhm.
won't know anything about recovery. I'm teaching guys that are a couple years removed from college about
Yeah.
recovery. And unfortunately, they don't get it till they're about in their 30s once their body starts to break down.
Right.
So that's an option. You have NAIA schools, which is a 4-year university, but it's not quite Division 1 level. It's below Division 1, obviously.
Mhm.
They won't really have access to it. Like, they won't have massage partners,
Yeah.
to where it's like my guys can go to you for massage. They won't have those partnerships within the school. You can reach
Mhm.
out to them. Even soccer is the U.S. soccer is very large. I used
Mhm.
to work with Phoenix Rising. Most
Mhm.
people wouldn't know what Phoenix Rising is, but they're part of the USL, which most people aren't going to know what the USL is. If they know soccer, they'll know MLS. MLS is first tier professional.
Right.
But within the USL is the league below that. There's
Mhm.
2 leagues below USL. There's now an MLS Next Pro. Whereas, granted, if you go the MLS route, Their sports medicine teams work together, and generally the MLS teams have a massage therapist on staff. So then that's an easy way to reach out to that massage therapist and be like, hey, I would love to get experience from you, or learn from you, or help you out. Whereas in the other levels, you would reach out to the athletic trainer first. I wouldn't really reach out to the coach first, because the coach is going to be like, heck yeah, like this is great. Like, let's get you in, and then overwork you, because the coach isn't going to necessarily understand it. Whereas you go to the athletic trainer and be like, all right, yeah, cool. I know 3 guys that would benefit greatly from a massage. Here's where to focus on. And then they'll be able to help teach you while you help teach them about stuff that goes into injury prevention. So just like look at the other levels, because unfortunately, in order to get a job, you need experience. But then how do you get that experience? And it's all going to be from that connections you made. So always look into the smaller sports first. Obviously, we would all love to go work for the Phoenix Suns. I would love to be like, hey, hire me on as your assistant athletic trainer. But I'm not, because I'm not working football, or I'm not working basketball, I'm working football. It just doesn't cross correlate. Even it's hard with the Cardinals, even though we're football, it's because I don't have those connections yet. Like, I'm forming it. But it's a great job. They're going to be there. So don't just set your sight set for the first tier professional. You always can. Like I said, they have those massage therapists on staff. You can easily reach out. Maybe you word it to where you reach out to them, be like, hey, I would love to pick your brain. Are you free for a coffee or off season? Or can I buy? And you prove that your dedication to them and to the field, they might be a little bit more willing to help you out, or be reaching out to those smaller level athletic trainers to see how you can help out, or if you want to set something up, or, obviously you need to be paid for it. Maybe, hey, I can set it up to where it's X amount of dollars for a massage for 30 minutes, X amount for 60 minutes. Might be able to make a little bit from there, just because yes, those college kids, junior college, NAIA, aren't necessarily making money, but they have scholarship checks. NAIA, generally they're paying for their own tuition, some for. So if athletes need it, they'll find a way to it. And it's reaching out, going to the team's website, finding information that way. The athletic trainers info should always be listed, or at least an email. Or always LinkedIn. LinkedIn's a good source where if I ever need to get a hold of somebody and I can't find their contact info, I try to see if they're on LinkedIn and reach out to them via that. Because obviously LinkedIn has the professional socialism, or social media, not socialism, social vibe, rather than like, oh, I found them on Instagram and you DM'd them. Still can do it, but it matters the person on the other side. Like, if someone reached out to me on Instagram, I'd be like, all right, yeah, that's fine, it's whatever. Like, you reached out to that, I wouldn't view it as like a negative. But you might have a super old school person where it's like, why are they DMing me on Instagram? Like, send me an email. And that's where like you just want to be professional in how you reach out. Email, LinkedIn, even phone call. But I don't like calling people, so
me either. And I'm not even of the age that's supposed to be bothering me. Like they said, what millennials or Gen X's or whatever, the different levels. I'm like, I'm not even in the right category for that to be an issue. But apparently, no, thank you. I'm like, please voicemail. What about as far as like just building up your knowledge base? Do you have any great resources or kind of avenues that you think are really great for people to focus on and kind of learn more about injury and kind of how the body works during rehab stages and that kind of stuff?
Great resource. I mean, learn anatomy. Anatomy is the biggest thing, which I'm sure you guys cover that in your schooling. You need to know anatomy. In terms of like learning more about rehab, I mean, where I learned rehab was all from my continuing education units. I don't know if you for your certification, do you guys have to do continuing education?
We do. We have 24 hours every 2 years.
Okay. Because maybe I don't know exactly how applicable, because if you take like say an athletic training CEU, I don't know if you guys can get CEUs.
Yeah, it just depends. Some of the providers do get it. What the organization's called NCB, National Certification Board of Massage Therapy. We shorten it to NCB. Some of them do also get that approval as well, because they open it up to class 2 to massage therapists. But you know, I know people too are like, I know I'm not going to get official CE credits for this, but I want the knowledge. I want to learn from this person. I want to learn about this technique or this injury or whatever it is. So if the class is open to allowing them to come in, sometimes they just do it for the knowledge base.
Gotcha.
I know that's that's super hardcore.
Because we have in our certification, we have like a category D, where it's just for like it's not direct. Like usually when you sign up for a CE course, it's like, all right, here's your athletic training certification or your athletic training number. But if they don't offer that, I can put a number down for how many hours I spent on it. And then if I get like say audited, they have to be like, hey, how does this apply to your career? And be like, well, this is how. Like, okay, cool. But that's where I learned a lot about my rehab, like learning different rehab philosophies, specifically like in the injury prevention realm. There's a lot of different models that people use. Great athletic trainers will probably use like 3 or 4 models, but it's developing relationships with athletic trainers. Like, hey, what do you use? Like I've used a lot of PRI in my practice. It's postural Restoration Institute, where it's great stuff. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen people doing exercises with a ball between their knee and breathing into a balloon. But those are great exercises. And that's where you kind of develop a rehab model, see, all right, where are they potentially weak at, or where are they tight at? Exos has some great education where you can go through them and develop rehab models through them. Functional movement screen, FMS, is another one. There's another computerized model, but I'm blanking on it. But it's really just reaching out to the athletic trainers and be like, hey, what CEUs would you recommend for rehab? And kind of paying for them. You know, tax write-off at the end of the year anyways. Like for me, any education that I do, it's like, all right, buy it, write off. Hopefully it gives me a break at the end of the year. But it's really paying for your career too. I wouldn't be where I'm at if I didn't spend money on my CEUs. That's something I had to learn early on in my career. Like early in my career, I was not immature as a person. I was immature as a profession, where it's like, oh, cool, I'm certified. Cool. Ride it out till I get to retire now. Realistically, it's you have to dedicate yourself to buying the CEUs and really learning as much as you can from that. So that's what I would suggest, is looking into, you know, making connections with athletic trainers, reaching out to them like, hey, what CEUs would you recommend? Or what do you use for like injury prevention? What's your model? Where did you learn that? And go and take it yourself, and then maybe you can apply those CEUs to your own. Because that's really the only way to learn rehab. Don't really. I sometimes, you know, there's a couple of people I follow on Instagram that are good for like new exercises. But I've scouted them, like, all right, how legit are they? And like, if I see a video, I generally go, all right, cool. How is this person? Does this exercise make sense? Okay, yeah, kind of. Let's go to their profile, see if I sense BS or not. Just because everybody's a specialist on Instagram, Reels, TikTok, whatever you want to call it. But it's really like, it's up to you to try to figure out if they're knowledgeable or not, or if it makes sense anatomy. And that's where like you knowing anatomy can come into play. If you didn't, you'd be like, oh, you know, doing this hip flexor exercise is solve back pain. Perfect. I'm going to do it. And it doesn't work because that person was just like, oh yeah, I did this, but I also did some back stretches and some ice, and then I rested myself as well, and I fixed my back pain. But the hip flexor exercise was new. You kind of have to be the detective in that, and that's experience. And I mean, that's just medical anyways, is you have to this is a side tangent. Every medical research article you read, you have to read for bias and understand of like, okay, is this actually creating, like, is this actual like true results, or is it just
Right.
for that one scenario?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. You have to be careful. We see it all the time in massage. We have a sister school that deals, our Academy of Lymphatic Studies, and that in particular, lymph work right now is like crazy all over the internet, and things that people are doing. Sometimes I'm like, oh, stop doing that. Stop. That's not even doing anything. I'm like, no, they're not supposed to be bruised afterwards. What are you doing? So, yeah, very, very true. And I like that you've confirmed with everyone, all the students out there listening, that education afterwards is so important. It always breaks my heart when I see people like, I need continuing education by tomorrow. Who's got some? Anything. I don't care. I'm like, oh, you just wasted like a perfect opportunity.
Yeah,
Learning is fun.
sometimes that has to happen. Like me this past year, I had to pay my our CEUs, but like I have to do 50 every 2, and I had 35, so I need 15 quid. Where it's like, all right, I feel like I already learned. Let me try to find some free CEUs to knock it out, because sometimes it happens. Like,
that's
it's
a
like
balancing act for
doing
sure.
the full amount at the last second every year, just knocking out for free, and just like skipping through the slides to pass the test, because you get unlimited tries at the test.
Yeah, I know. And there's actually some debate I see in some of our massage groups about whether or not we need CEs, because there's no one really like monitoring how good they are. Actually, anyone can really get a number that proves them a provider, blah, blah, blah. But then that's where you have to decide how you're going to use that to your, into your advantage, and to enhance what you're doing, and bringing those tools to the table. So, I mean, that's kind of on us as a consumer of the item as well. But things are always changing. I'm just thinking, I've been in the field 20 years. And when I first started going to school, it was like, people are like, you can't touch anybody who has cancer. I mean, that's been totally debunked and like completely different. People with misconceptions about prenatal massage and things like that are completely different now. And so if you're not keeping up on these kinds of things, you never know. And one of the things I was thinking, I'm curious of your opinion. I hear different debates about the hydrotherapy kind of ice, or the cold or hot. And some people are like, you shouldn't put anything on it. You should let the body do the natural healing. And, you shouldn't put that, because the ice is just going to interfere with that. And never heat, but yes, heat. And maybe, but it has to be moist heat. And then no, but if you do it upside down and backwards, so you never quite know like what the latest and greatest is. But it also have to be able to like research and look at the different sides of it. And like you said, figure out where they're coming from, and understand what happens on the anatomical level as well.
Yeah, I mean, the simplest answer to that, because I've read that research as well, is how to apply it. Every medical article is gonna be like, "Okay, here's this," and then it worked. The article clearly proves it. However, why did it work? What population did they work on? Perfect example. Okay, hamstring strain versus ankle sprain. 2 different injuries, 1 ligament, 1 tendon.
Yeah.
If it's a hamstring strain, I'm not putting any ice on it early on, just because we want to provide some tissue flushing on that. Definitely, for sure, never apply heat to an injury within 48 hours. That's definitive, like across the board, because you have that first initial injury phase is going to last 48 hours, where if you put more heat on it, it's going to increase swelling. And you never want to increase swelling. Like, swelling's okay when you do utilize it properly, like that hamstring strain. Okay, you allow it to inflame, you provide some tissue mobilization, you stretch to pain tolerance. Early mobilization of the tissue is going to increase the effectiveness of the rehab. Whereas you ice that hamstring down right away, it contracts on itself. It doesn't provide inflammation, which brings healing properties. It's bad, but kind of good.
Yeah.
And that's a hamstring. But for an ankle, I want to try to limit the amount of swelling, because the more it swells up, the longer the rehab is going to be, because then you have to work through the swelling first. So it's going to swell up some, like, unless you just like ice your bucket for 20 minutes every hour and it's like freezing ice. But no athlete's going to do that. They're going to do it a couple times, and the body's still going to swell to what it needs, but at least maybe you controlled it. That's where like it just comes from practice of knowing, because that was the same thing where the athletic trainer before me apparently was anti-ice everything. But it's like, well, no, cold tubs still benefit. Like, getting in a cold tub after practice is still going to promote recovery. But you got to know how to apply it.
Yeah.
Because yes, is that article correct, where it's like, all right, you don't want to ice everything, or ice is bad for you. It's going to be good for some people. It's going to be average for other people. It's going to be okay in others, because even a hamstring strain, you can ice it early on. It just might lengthen up the rehab, and as long as you can still rehab and return to play, ice didn't do bad. It just slowed down you, which means you're okay to good athletic trainer, not a great athletic trainer. So it's still passable, and that's where your practice comes into play of not being afraid to try stuff.
Yeah.
Because if you try stuff and it didn't work, then you have your live results of, okay, why did that not work?
Yeah.
Is it something that I didn't do it properly, or maybe it was the specific setting or the environment of that athlete or that tissue? Okay, maybe it was the environment. Let me try it on another athlete in a different environment. Maybe it worked that time. Okay, why did it work? Can I repeat that?
Right.
Whereas if it didn't work, okay, why didn't it? Maybe you ultimately learn your practice that, all right, yeah, icing is total BS. I'm not going to ice. Cool. But at least you have the practice yourself to benefit off of it. Because again, the research is going to be very, like, they're going to control the article as much as they can.
Yeah.
And that's where it comes down to, again, just reading research, knowing how to apply it. And ultimately, in your practice, not just sticking to one thing. I mentioned earlier in the injury prevention models, great athletic trainers will base their practice off of 3 to 4 models. They'll have one that they favorite, but then they'll have ones to be able to bounce off of. Whereas a good athletic trainer will have one, but that one isn't going to be great for everything.
Yeah.
Because we work with people, everybody is different. You're not going to have the same person over and over again.
Yeah. So no one size fits all, and being willing to change things up and work through different scenarios. I think it's really important. But the more you understand the body, the easier that's going to be able to be done. So yeah, I love it. And I love talking ice because it always gets people riled up.
Yeah. I just laugh, like every athletic trainer I meet, it's like, oh, anti-ice. It's like, why? Like, it's the most old school thing out there, and it's like one of the most old school things that stood the test of time. Like,
yeah,
don't
I
be
know,
afraid to
it's
ice,
just really funny.
Oh, no ice tubs. All right, well, it's hot as heck outside. I'm gonna go hop in an ice tub and cool down my body that way. It might not help out my muscles, but it feels good.
Yeah. And I know on the flip side, there's people who are doing those cryo tubs and like doing all these things as well, like for their health benefits and everything.
Yeah, I mean, that we had a partnership with a cryo chamber with Rising, and they're making a big deal, like, oh, it changes your metabolism. I'm like, I call BS there. Like,
your mitochondria are going to be
that's just my personal opinion on that. Some people love it, and some people will be like, I absolutely love it. Yeah, it's better my metabolism. Be like, cool, it might have. But for me, it's like, all right, I hop in a cryo chamber. I'm in there for 3 minutes. It's super cold. I hate it. I jump out and I go outside and I'm warm in 2 minutes. Like, did it really elicit change?
And you want a snack. So that didn't really help with your digestion. All right, Steve. So we're nearing the end of our time here, and I know you're a busy guy, and you guys got a game tomorrow. Really, really excited about that. I just want to throw up on the screen here, if I can find my mouse. There it is. I have the 2 screens, so I don't know where my mouse goes some days. But if anybody is interested in seeing a Rattlers game, they're so much fun. So bring some earplugs if you're really a little sensitive to noise. So get ready for those cannons. That was the other day we went. Thank you for the tickets again, by the way. And my son, they were ready. Every time they scored, they were my son and his friend, right? And they didn't call the touchdown yet because they were reviewing the play. So like the call, the actual official call happened like a minute later, and then the cannon. They're like, darn it, I missed it. It was like so fun. But anyway, so they're super, super fun. And not an expensive outing to have fun with the family down there, and down over at the arena. I have to call it the arena because it changes its name so much. Footprint Center now, I think.
Footprint Center, yeah.
I used to be the U.S. Airways when I moved here, so it's been a lot of things.
I'm gonna say America West.
America West, yep. That's officially when I moved here. That's what it was. Yep. But a lot of fun to go to those games. My husband's like, how do we get those seats over there where you can catch the ball and take that home for a souvenir? So he wants to sit there next time. It's really funny. Nice. We had a really, really good time. But anyway, so anyone can go out and check out the guys. They're doing really well this season, probably postseason bound, right?
Yeah, we clinched playoff spot last week. So we got 3 home games left. and then playoffs will start July 24th.
Awesome.
If we win that, we'll play July 30th. If we win that, we'll go to Vegas and play August 13th. So
awesome.
4 more opportunities to come see us, possibly 5, possibly 6 if you want a road trip to Vegas.
Yeah, road trip.
Why not?
I've done the minivan before. I brought everybody from school, so we can see what we do. All right. So, as I mentioned, I always ask some 5 questions at the end to all of our guests. Here are your 5, so we can find out a little bit more about Steven. So, which talent or superpower would you most like to have?
As much as I want to say Captain America, the super serum with the shield, because he was my favorite superhero growing up. I thought long and hard about this one. I'm a big Marvel, so I was like, all right, who would I choose? I'd probably go Doc Strange, just because turn back time. So if an athlete gets injured, could turn it back and prevent.
Yeah, there you go. Practical. I like
it. Magic, heal, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I think I'm gonna go with Strange.
Okay, I like that.
Control the mystic arts, help out with the career.
Yeah, I'm not huge into superhero movies and stuff, but I love him. Like he's like probably because it's Benedict Cumberbatch too, because he's quirky and fun and stuff.
Yeah. This was a little bit better movie, the second one, but
it
was all right.
Super fun. If you weren't, I put massage therapist, but if you weren't into athletic training, what career do you think you'd most like have right now?
Ego wants to say professional golfer. Chance are not though, so I'd probably like PA school, physician's assistant, where you can still. It's not easy to get into, but it's a lot easier than med school. And then you're dealing with 3 years, then you basically still get to act as a doctor, but you're still an assistant, so not quite a doctor, but it's not as student loan debt, but still a decent salary. It's probably a physician's assistant.
Yeah. So I kind of try to go down that route myself, because I was pre-med in college myself, and I was like, what am I doing here? But I still love the medical stuff, and so I thought about PA, and a lot of people think that, so they say it's actually a little hard unless you're willing to go to any of the schools in the country. You have to apply to every single one. The chances to get because there's only a couple, like there's just got the one here. So I know, but I have a friend who is a PA right now, and she's living her best life right now. So it's really great. So if money and circumstances were not an issue, where would you most like to live in the world?
I would probably say Europe. I was actually talking with a person about this today, because stuff got voted on today without jumping into stuff. Europe would be a blast to live in. Somewhere over in England, like if you say I get to work with like one of the Premier League teams, work with like Chelsea or something, like that would be awesome. Probably that.
To see a soccer match in Europe has got to be like one of the most amazing.
And then you'd say to work in that would be even more awesome. Maybe Australia, New Zealand in there too, just because I can vibe with that. But I would still probably say like Europe, London for the work opportunity. Yeah.
Nice. I love it. That's on our bucket list too. My family. What's your most treasured possession?
My dogs.
How many do you have?
I have 2. Both of them rescue. One's a 3-year-old lab hound mix, but like 99% lab. The other's a German Shepherd Husky. But they're probably my most prized possession. Like, after work, because of their specific dog food diet and destroying couches. But, they're my most prized, possession.
Oh, yeah. I'm into rescue. I foster a lot, and we end up with these. I love big dogs. I have 2 little ones. I don't know what happened. They're my foster failures. Fell in love with them, and I'm like, what is going on here? These little dogs. I don't know, but they fit on your lap a little easier. So there's that. And last but not least, what would you tell your 18-year-old self?
Be patient. But also keep learning. 18-year-old me kind of wanted stuff not given, but like, all right, cool. Like I was mentioned earlier, where, all right, cool, I'm certified.
Yeah.
Let me go be ahead somewhere. Like, I know I'm good at my job, but it's like, no, you're not. Like, be patient. Understand that you're going to go through life struggles. You're going to doubt yourself plenty. You're going to have success, but enjoy the process of getting there, because it's stories to tell. And then, you can pass that on to the people, like the interns that I have now. I'm telling them all the stuff that I wish I would have known. And again, continue the continued education theme of don't stop learning.
Yeah.
Because even though you're past and hey, you're a massage therapist or an athletic trainer now, still continue that learning model because stuff's ever changing. You could learn different stuff. You can improve your work in between.
Very, very wise words. I love it. I want to thank you so much for taking the time out today. I had a great conversation. We love working with you guys. Your guys are probably going to get off the table in a couple minutes. Actually, I'm watching the window here. So thank you for trusting them to us to help and to give our students this opportunity. So good luck tomorrow and enjoy the game. And we'll talk soon. So thanks, and thanks everyone at home for watching.